Hi, welcome to Movie Review Mom. Today, the movie I am reviewing is 5 Feet Apart. This movie is rated PG-13. It's 2 hours long, and the grade that I gave it is a B-, and I'll tell you why. But first, in a quick nutshell, she has cystic fibrosis, so does he. That's why they have to stay 6 feet apart, or they'll catch each other's deadly germs. What if they're 5 feet apart? So yes, this is another one of those sick teens in love movies that we've seen many times before. This film is actually based on the book by Rachel Lippincott, and I have to admit, I have not read the book, but the movie seemed very formulaic. It seemed like something we'd seen before many times, which is partly why I gave it a lower score than I would have liked to. Let me give you some quick tips for parents, and then I'll tell you about some of the things that I actually really did like, as well as some things I didn't like. So tips for parents. First of all, the movie starts off and there's some teenage girls that are looking at clothes, and one of them asks, "Too trampy or not trampy enough?" And I was like, seriously? I mean, these are teenagers. Come on. I don't know. That bothered me. I don't have teenage daughters. I have 4 sons. And of course, they are influenced by what they see. And all 4 of my boys admit that they respect a girl better and think higher of her when she's not dressed like a tramp. So I'm just saying, this is coming from a mother's perspective. So clean it up, girls. You don't have to show everybody everything. Make there be some mystery. And then there's a lot of talk. This is teenagers. There's a lot of talk of doing it, foreplay, using protection. Stella and Will talk about whether or not they like sex and where they want to have it. And, I know teenagers are sex obsessed, and it's revealed that one of them is acting like, it's happened, but come to find out it actually hasn't. I don't know if that's a spoiler or not, but I don't know. Maybe, I know that's how the world is today, but just wanted parents to know, give you guys a heads up that there's discussion about all that kind of stuff. So if you're taking young children, they may start asking questions about what some of these things are. Also, there's lots of texting, so young kids who can't read won't know what's being said. There's a biracial teen couple. There's some profanity, including 2 F-bombs, both times by Haley Lou Richardson, who plays the main character, the protagonist. I hate seeing girls have fouler mouths than guys even, but there you go. There's some name calling. There's talk of a teenage gay couple. You don't see anything, like I said, there's just talk of it. A teenager goes skydiving. Some parents may call that reckless behavior. Your kids may want to go do that, so you be prepared. They might be asking you about it. And the parents are never around. There are these sick kids in the hospital, and you never see them until the very end of the movie, which is really sad that they're not there more often, or even talking on the phone with them. The movie is truly focused on these teenagers and what they're experiencing. There is also talk of a girl who dies while cliff diving. You don't see anything, it's just a conversation. But again, some reckless behavior of, trying to live it big and live it large, which is dangerous at times, depending on what the activity is. There's a teen boy and a teen girl who undress in front of each other down to their underwear. They go swimming, so you can say, it's like their bathing suit, just telling you. And then there are some teenagers who drink alcohol. So the positive themes in the movie are certainly communication in many forms, the human touch and the importance of human touch. Obviously, there's a romance between these teenagers and they cannot physically touch, and the drama that ensues because of that, but also other forms of touch. And intimacy doesn't necessarily have to be by touch. And so there's some of that addressed as well. And then Stella, played by Haley Lou Richardson, who is the protagonist, says the big theme of the movie is life is too short to waste a second. And that's really true. You don't have to have a disease or an illness that puts you in the hospital and keeps you away from all of your loved ones, to know that life is precious. So hopefully you can learn the lessons that these teenagers experience and walk out of the movie theater really being grateful for your life. And I'm sure your life isn't perfect. Nobody's is. But being grateful for the simple things that you do have in your life. All right, so some things that I liked. Haley Lou Richardson, Cole Sprouse, and Moses Arias all did a great job. They're generally likable and definitely believable. Anyway, they did a good job. And I was happy to see English actress Claire Forlani in the movie, even though she has this very small role and very short screen time. But it's been a while since I've seen her in anything, and she's so pretty. And I thought she was especially lovely in the movie Meet Joe Black. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, but I hadn't seen her actually in anything, and I don't know why that is. She's just lovely. That's the word that comes to my mind, and she is in this movie as well. So Stella writes this to-do list, and it's kind of fun to see the things that she has on her to-do list. I have one. I've had one since I was her age, what I called my bucket list, things I wanted to do before I kicked the bucket in life. And for many years, I just thought, well, someday I'll do those. And then I think I was in my 40s where I was like, life is going way faster than I thought it would. And my list is still quite long. I'm running out of time. So I took the things off my bucket list and started putting them on my to-do list, on my calendar, on my planner, and started making them happen. And it's been awesome. It's so empowering to cross one of those things off my list. A lot of the things on my list have to do with travel. And so my husband and I, he's even older than I am. And so we've just felt compelled to start crossing these things off of our list and making them happen. And some things are free. They don't cost anything. Some things you have to save money for and plan, like big trips. But we're making them happen, and it's super cool. Her list has very simple things because she's stuck in a hospital. But one of the things that she has on her list says afterlife, ? And meaning she wanted to find out about that, not necessarily go there, but to have some kind of an assurance. So she has a conversation, and I was disappointed that it was as short as it was. I was hoping there would be more depth to it and it would last longer. But she does have this conversation with somebody about, what do you think happens after we die? And of course, she was facing that every day, as were these other teenagers in the same situation. So they have cystic fibrosis, and a friend of mine has a son who has cystic fibrosis, and he told me that they spend a fortune, and over the years they have spent a fortune on various medicines and treatments and support and information and all of the medical attention that he needs. And I'm happy to say he's actually doing really well, which makes me really happy, because what you see in the movie are patients with cystic fibrosis who are on the brink of death, and they're waiting for transplants, basically. Otherwise, their days are numbered. All of us have days that are numbered, but you know what I mean. It's urgent in their situation. So it's nice to know that people can live with it and run a fairly normal, healthy life for many years until they get to a situation like that. There is a truly unselfish sacrifice that's made in this movie that warmed my heart, because oftentimes in these teen romance movies, they are completely self-absorbed and self-centered. And that's one of the things that kind of turns me off. I know it's totally natural for teenagers to act that way, but I always want more depth. And it tends to be very true for teenagers to be very self-absorbed. And so to see this act of sacrifice was really great and meaningful, especially in this particular movie. Will's character, he's the love interest, the boy, he does a lot of artwork, and it actually was created by an artist named Caesar Meadows, who has a comic strip called Mumbo Gumbo. And so you should check that out. It's really cute. It's part of his story and who he is and how he communicates, which I thought was really cute. All right, and then just a few things that I didn't really like. I'm sure the book is better. Books are always better. Well, not always. I had a really hard time getting through Lord of the Rings, the books. but I loved the movies and was obsessed with them and have seen them an embarrassingly large number of times. But generally books are better. They just provide more detail and that kind of thing. And so I don't know. In the movie, I didn't really like these two main characters. They're both kind of snarky, foul-mouthed, especially her, and kind of jerky, especially towards each other when they meet. For example, Stella is super hostile towards him. And I don't know if she's just trying to be cool, but she kind of seemed like a jerk to me. And I'm thinking I'm supposed to like her and feel sorry for her and side with her. So I'm sure maybe in the book they spend more time developing her character, so you really do love her and care about her. By the end of the movie, I had more of an affinity for her, but it started off a bit rough where I'm just like, I know you have a sickness and I feel bad about that, but maybe be more nice to people. Anyway, and then there's a lot of talk of mucus, because that's just a thing that happens with cystic fibrosis, and which is fine. You could talk about the medical conditions, but you see her, Stella, spit out massive chunks out of her mouth, and I'm like, I don't need to see that necessarily. So that's kind of a gross scene. In the movie, they keep reminding us that the rule is for cystic fibrosis patients to stay 6 feet apart. We get that, but the movie's called 5 feet apart, and only one scene explains that, and that she gets this broomstick, or a broom, and has the stick, which is 5 feet. So technically the movie should be called, well, I guess it is called 5 feet apart, but maybe it should have been 6 feet. I don't know. It seemed like they were pushing it at 5 feet if the rule was 6 feet. Anyway, there was a little disconnect there. Stella is a complete control freak and a little, OCD. And I don't think that that's connected to cystic fibrosis. I think that's just her personality. And sure, that could be charming. And I know a lot of people struggle with that, and that's totally fine. But she is really, she really pushes it onto other people. I've got a fly flying around. Sorry if you see me brushing this little gnat in my house. Anyway, she pushes her agenda on people. And I don't know, I just found that annoying. And maybe that's part of her feeling like she doesn't have control over her illness. And so she takes very aggressive control over the things that she does have control over. And maybe that is something that happens when people are in serious situations like that in the hospital. I'll have to ask my twin sister. She's actually a nurse practitioner, and she spends a lot of time in hospitals. So maybe that's a thing. I'll have to ask her about that. I mentioned that some other people, healthy people, participated in some dangerous behavior. Sometimes they were fine, and then, like I mentioned, another girl died. But the teens that are in the hospital do some things that are dangerous to their health. And one of the characters rationalizes it by saying, I'm sorry, but it was so fun, as if that makes it okay. And it does not. So I know they're trying to live and enjoy life, but that's another one of the things that always bugs me about these teenage movies, where they're either one person is sick or maybe they're both sick, and they risk their life, for a kiss or to get close or whatever. And there's a moment where, some people, and I won't try not to give it all away, they so want to kiss and they resist, and that's great. It shows great self-control. And then there is other behavior where they're just throwing caution to the wind, and almost in a disrespectful manner, where people have made sacrifices for them to be there. In fact, in the movie, they are allowed to be in this trial for special medication and treatment, and other people who are willing to obey the rules are not getting an opportunity because the spaces are taken by these other teens who are just dismissive of the rules, and the rules are there to protect them. Anyway, that kind of stuff drives me nuts. And I know, again, that's teenage behavior. I'm just saying. So my biggest gripe was that the movie is so predictable that I never shed a tear. And I know that sounds terrible because I cry pretty easily, but the movie was so predictable and so formulaic that had a tough time, really being surprised by anything or really falling in love with these characters. And I feel bad about that because I know a lot of people who did cry in this movie and loved it and thought it was the greatest thing ever. And so I feel really hard-hearted about that. If you do cry, that's totally fine. If you see it in the movie theater, bring some tissues. And if you forgot to bring tissues, you can run out to the theater, run out to the restroom afterwards, because it's still dark. The light doesn't immediately go bright afterwards. And so, there aren't any end credit scenes. You could sit there even in the theater and wipe your tears. If you have seen the trailer, you've pretty much seen the entire movie. So I'm going to save you some time there. But if you like the trailer and you're like, yeah, this looks really great, then see it and you're probably really going to enjoy it. So if being around each other was dangerous, they easily could have had this online relationship, right? And not put each other at risk. And they do get on cell phones sometimes. But I wondered in this day and age with the technology why, they had to be so tempted physically when you can have a relationship. In fact, there was a great movie about, what's that super smart guy? I can't think of the name of the movie. Oh man, now I can't think of the movie. But anyway, he's the guy that's in a wheelchair. He was brilliant. And The Theory of Everything. I think that's what it's called. Where he's in a wheelchair and he physically cannot act on any, impulses, and yet he has an affair. If you haven't seen that movie, I just gave you the spoiler. He actually has an affair. Again, it's not a physical thing necessarily, but just that emotional connection. And you can be obviously emotionally connected to somebody without the physical intimacy. Anyway, there's some interesting ideas there, and I hope you enjoy the movie if you see it. I'll give you a couple of interesting lines here at the end, and most of these are actually, I think they're all from Stella, who's the protagonist. She says, "We need that human touch from the one we love even more than air to breathe." And another quote from her is, "When you live with cystic fibrosis, so much is taken from you." And so maybe that's why they were so anxious to grab what they could. And then Stella also says, "There's this one theory I like. It says to understand death, you have to lick it first." And she tries to do that every single day by trying to live. And then the last time, this is a great end statement that we'll end with. She says, "This whole time I've been living to do my treatments instead of doing my treatments so I can live. I want to live." And that's the crux of the movie, is to have that passion for living. So I hope you enjoy the movie. If not, I hope you enjoy the movie or my movie review and still feel that sense of, I want to live, but be careful, be safe, but to appreciate, enjoy every day and find happiness and find joy in even the smallest things. Bye for now. Thanks for watching. Oh, and be sure and subscribe. I forgot to show you my little pillow, my subscribe pillow. It's in my office. I'm sitting in my husband's office right now. And by the way, go to moviereviewmom.com. You can see my written reviews, and you can also contact me on the box, and I will send you a list of, I haven't even counted the dozens of ways that you can watch movies for free. So check that out at moviereviewmom.com. Bye for now.